Good morning. This is Autodesk 3D Studio Max Elementary course. It's the second unit and the third lecture, and in this lecture we're going to talk about modeling and modifiers, and we're going to have a group of subtopics actually. We're going to talk about the concept of modeling. Basically, that's the main idea of modeling and modifiers in 3D Studio Max. Why and when we use modifiers, how to apply them, apply our first modifier, Twist, creating the infinite tower, and then the concept of segments, fatal mistakes of using segments related to modifiers, the Taper Modifier, and then we have an assignment which is making the gate towers, ripple and wave modifiers, and a simple homework. So modifiers, it's actually a very interesting topics and very important topics in 3D Studio Max, and they actually provide us with lots of ability to change, to move, to store information, change the physical aspects of a building, and they are actually a very important topic in the process of any type of modeling inside 3D Studio Max. So if we go to 3D Studio Max, and as we studied before, that's the basic here, the basic creation panel here. And when we create something, as we said before, it's been actually finished as long as we left or clicked outside this geometry or deselect the geometry itself, and each time we go and move and select, we will never see its modification properties. And we said that we go to modifiers and we're going to see every property of that object stored within the modifier panel. So this is the modifier panel here, and from that here exactly you can get whatever type of modifier you have. And yes, they are a little bit of scary, they are too much, and they kind of complicated and work and connected to different types of fields in Max. Some of them with animation, some of them with material, some of them with modeling, and so on and so on. But generally, that's my box, and it's stored in a place, or this place we call it the Modifier Stack. It's like a big bag. Each time you add something, it's gonna add to the top, and the box will stay always under the lower part of it, which is the base of that place, which we call it again a modifier stack. So let's change that. Let's make this box maybe 20, or 20 by 20, and here we say maybe a 100. So again, that's our first modifier. So let's add let's add a bend, which is again from here. Click on this drop down list and pick bend. You will notice that immediately an orange box is actually wrapping or covering my original box, and that's to show you, or that gizmo actually is to show you that this is an indication for you that there is some modifiers being added. Now we see that the box is down in the stack and the bend is added above, as we said. And now let's try come here and change the angle. See, now what happened is that orange thing tell you that the orange box of the orange gizmo is telling you what the modifier should look like, while the sad box is actually not doing that or not following. It's actually like a skew here. It's not a bend. That's what the box doing, and that's happened due to the fact that our original box doesn't have the physical requirement in its geometry to follow this bend. And simply I can go back to the box by clicking here and notice that it doesn't have the sufficient segment. And the segment, again, as we said in the previous lecture, it's very important to be careful with, and try to increase, for example, the length segment. And of course, don't forget to hit F4 in case if you don't have those edges shown. See, so F4 is very important for us. If you didn't turn them on, just turn them on so you can see the segments shown. Anyway, so back to the box again, and see what we actually doing here, that we increase the length segment, but the actual change or the actual shape of the box is not responding or not changing following this bend. So that's really important topic. When you work with modifiers, don't change all the segments just because you have the alibi that, okay, I need to make the curvature better, that's why I have to go increase insanely all the segments. I have don't. Most of segments, most of the time, are actually not related and doesn't add any benefit for you. Just they add more consuming to the RAM and just take more of your resources. So changing this, you didn't see it's affecting the bend, don't. Let's go here, add this 9 or something, nothing. Again, ignore it and return it to 1. Now look, as long as you go click once here, you can see that the bend is now, or the box now is like bending as it's supposed to be. Back to the box and see how I go back box and the property change for the bend modifier. When I click here, the property change for the box himself. That's lovely thing about the modifier stack and about the parametric modeling as all, because it actually allows us to store the information here for the box or for the modifier itself. Let's go now and increase this to 3 and see gradually it's actually following the bend. So let's give it like I don't know, let's say go 32, and you see now the box is really bending and it's actually following the exact angle that we gave in the bend modifier. So what is this? Again, it's a modifier, bend and angle, which our first parameter, and it's just make it 90. And what is happening here, it's just that the bend modifier has angle, and that angle, it's 90 degree to the base, so it's bend this face to this face with this specific angle. So it should be from here to here, it's 90. And if you don't believe, just have a look in here. See, that face is a 90 degree base to this guy. So let's make it 180, so we increase your belief in that. See, lovely. 270, and you know, now it's got start to get boring. Now let's go back. It's really obvious. So that's at 270. I'm getting it back to 90 as I have here before, and that's really important to understand how it works. So that's the angle. The direction is actually moving it again 90 degree based on what it has, 180. And look, it's really nice. It's really the basic of any basic animation you can do. That's the moving of the objects. You can do this nudging head things if you are interested with how you move things or how you make animation. So it's really a good thing to say no, you know, like, and you save that in animation here. Anyway, let's go back. So 0, and those axes are just telling the modifier where to go. So the whole process thing goes on Z. If I press Y, things goes a little bit off out of my hand. It's kind of scary now. So now it's actually bending on or according to the Y, and again we see the box not following the gizmo of the bend, and that's me. I have to go back to box in this case and see which one is affecting, and see now I understand it's the length. And while here, because I'm going to change the other axis, let's make this 10, and let me change this to 10 also. And now I have to go back here and see how that can affect and see the X axis. And to be honest, even me, I don't actually able to remember all this modification and what they do in each axis, with each value of the angle of each direction. It's almost impossible. So in order to be a good modeler or a good user for 3D Studio Max, it's a good idea to understand that as long as you see something really curved or bent, you have to use the bend modifier, and then you come here and you already have understand what those, so try to come and navigate them. So it's really important to understand this and to practice that actually during your work, and don't try to remember all the aspects of all sub parameter for the bend or any other modifier. Just understand what the modifier does actually, and then come and later on when you see something and you think of something you want to model, just use the right modifier to it. Now that's for example our first modifier. By the way, you can just turn it off like this and return to the previous condition, and each time you click it, I know you're gonna see this, but if there is no effect, you can go on and turn it on and it's gonna work again. You can just delete it here from that icon, just click and it's gonna be removed. Anyway, so that's our first modifier. So I'm gonna return to the previous condition, getting rid of the segments, because the next modifier we're gonna study is taper. So again, from here, and pick taper from this very long list. Come on, taper. This one. You can just press T and it's pop for you quickly than what I've done. Look again, the gizmo here, and now we have amount. So let's try come here and increase that amount. See, it's making the upper surface bigger rather than to the lower surface, which is actually still fixed. And if I go smaller, then you can see now it's getting smaller. So that's really good and to understand. It's really helpful for us architects, because that's 90% of the tower shape, starting by going, you know, vertically and then going smaller as a relationship to the base. So here, if you say for example minus 0.5, it should give you half each side of the XY plane. When they go to the Z direction, this point to this point now, or this length to this length, should be half of it. And the same thing here. And that's really good. If you go even minus 1, it's gonna make really a pyramid for you. So let's keep it minus 0.5 as it was. So that's basically taper. It's making things taper actually. The name itself is a plane. And let's see what we can do here in curve. So if I increase this curve, it looks like it's getting puffed here and more curved here. And if I go that way to the inside, the curvature get inside the geometry. And again, let's turn that into a wireframe mode. See, it's getting inside it, but we couldn't see it clearly due to the fact that it's shaded or whatever, so or realistic actually, so we can see through. So it's a good idea. You can indicate from here it's getting from the top part, it's getting inside. Anywho, so now what we need, again back to box, change this, it doesn't affect, return it, change that, doesn't affect, return it to what it was. When you change the segment of the height, you can see now you are playing in the correct segment. So increase it, get back to taper, and now see the curvature. It's the box is actually following the modification gizmo, and now when you decrease it, it's going to be like a positive. Again, that's for basic animation. It's really important to make things look like a breathing. So, you know, that's really important to understand. It's not like a breathing object. So by increasing this parameter and save that in the auto key animation. And it's also, as for us as an architect, we need that to make some curvature and a tower design. Back to this field, it's again for X, for Z axis, as compared to the X and Y. You can change that to get a little bit more scarier results. So yes, don't try to remember them as I told you. See, yeah, okay. For X, same. So it's actually tapering thing based on a different axis. If I go back to Z, and let me just push that as it was. See, if you go only on Y, which is really lovely, it's just collapsing or affecting against that axis, while the other one, see, is still the same. If you flip that, it's gonna be the other way around, and if you take both of them, sorry, it's gonna collapse on both, or it's gonna reduce the size of both. A really nice command, and really nice or important modifier to understand. And this is the taper. Now, what if we added two modifiers to the object? And let's see that we have this box and we have the taper above. Now let's try and get back to our old guy here, bend, and we added, and we see that the whole box as a whole object, this one, is being covered by a new gizmo. Now let's go and give it a 90. And now things getting more interesting. Now look what happened. It's just bending the whole geometry after it's tapered. So it's really important. That's the box. Taper it for me and then bend it. And remember, if you turn off any one of them, you know, you can on off it anytime you like. So let's have a copy of that. Let's have a shift and move and hang on to the head of this X, move it aside, say it's yes, make sure it's copy. Now what if that again, it's taper and then bend. What if we flip this? Let's select that guy and push it down like this, and see we are getting a scarier result. It's a different geometry. And that's true as you have to understand that maybe there's some segments needed here. Not really. So what I try to say is they are not the same. They are not reversible. So if you it's actually bend it first and try to taper it, and you're getting now different scarier shapes. And again, it's a good idea. Sorry. And again, it's a good idea to understand those and to control that relationship by pushing modifiers up and down. And remember that you can turn that off and on anytime. Anyway, so let me delete this modifier and this one also. Another thing about modifiers is that when you select any object and then you come here, right click and then you copy, you can select any other object and then right click here and paste, and that's really lovely. And the same thing again, let's go here, right click, copy, and select this guy and right click, right click, paste. Right, as you can see, and it's good and easy way to take modifiers from one object to another one and apply that quickly. So let's try a new thing. Let me delete this one. Let me delete this one again. Let's have our third modifier. Let's go to the modifier list and let's I'm hitting T on my keyboard. So twist, that's another lovely one. And again, now it's as the name gives, it's just make a twist for the object, and the angle here is as the rotation angle comparing between the top and the bottom. So if I go 90 degree, it's gonna rotate that 90 degree and gonna create this lovely shape, you know, for me. Keep increasing this again, high amount of rotation, gonna create more loops, and that can get this little bit jaggy, so you need to get back and increase the segment as we said. So again, that's a very nice, really nice modifier, an important modifier to understand. The second parameter is here bias, so it allows us to make it start or delay in the twisting until it reaches the upper part, and the other way around, it can make it a little bit more straight upward and then start the twist from down. It's really important, those really important parameters to make any basic interior geometry, vases and chair legs. All that geometry is really important, and it's also very important for us in a basic animation. Again, we can change the axis, and yes, we might getting a little bit scary result or unpredictable results. Actually, it's okay. And as I said, try to understand the method, try to understand what do we need. It's been twisted, so use the twist modifier. Don't try to remember what each modifier, what axis you need. It's going to be a very complicated issue for you. So understand that this face is being rotated, or sorry, twisted based on that guy, so you need a twist modifier and so on. That's an easy way to remember it, rather than try to remember the settings here, which is a bit of complicated. So again, that's really good, which is our third modifier, twist. Let's have another really important modifier for us architect, which is lattice. So again, here I'm gonna hit L That's lattice here. And this guy turn every segment you has in the geometry into like a structural aspect, so, or like structural beam and columns. Let's come here to the radius and make it like a 0.1, and let's go another place, this for joint, another 0.1 here, and see what we have in here. It's actually changed all our segments for this box into like a cage, as you can see, as if you are seeing physical segment or physical wireframe representation, and you can control their thickness. And again, this guy controls the this guy controls the thickness of the let me get back that 0.2 for the joints themselves, sorry, for those bars here, while this guy for their joints, which is this point, if you want to make it like an intersection bigger, the intersection of them bigger. Anyway, it's let's make it 0.1 by 0.1. So that's my geometry. If you need to increase that, come back to the box and increase that again. Let's make it 60. And now you can see that, as you can see here, it's very important command for us architects. So pay attention to the relationship between the segments that you have and to the main dimension itself. So for example, if we say that this is 20 meter, for example, so if you add here 20 segments, you're supposed to end up by box that it's from here to here 1. We need this to be really understood again for architecture, because we're gonna need this to make mullions or glazing that look like that have mullions in between, and I'm gonna show you that in a couple of minutes. Just try to understand this. So in a box, if this is 20 meter and you divide that on 20, so that's basically a 1 meter. Same thing here for the width, and we have a let's say 100 meter high. So if I have 100 segment, I'm gonna end up by windows or mullions in a 1 by 1 meter. That's really an important thing for you to understand. And now, what about making this smaller and less complicated? It's really painful to look at. So I'm gonna make this 10, then 10, and then 50. So technically it is a mullions of 2 by 2 meters. Now I'm gonna change the, I'm gonna select that and maybe make them white, I don't know, any color above that. So now select it, copy in place, Control and V, copy again, and this time just delete the lattice. So see, now we have a box inside without lattice, and I'm gonna change that into bluish material or color, and it's represent the glass that you can have in a tower or a building, while this represents the mullion. So if you step away and you see, that's a really way, it's a very basic important way to make a basic mullion for you as architect when you design a building. I know you can do lots of more detail modeling here in Max, but again, it's a good idea. And if you are in the earlier phase and try to give an indication of a glass, so you do 2 boxes, one of them have lattice and the other one doesn't have, you give it blue color, and you get a nice representation of a glass for this building. Anyway, you can remove, by the way, lots of interior designer removing this, and keep that and just try to twist it probably, and we start to get probably taper it first and then twist it to get like a nice wire framing. It's for their you know, interior design geometry or lighting fixtures, and they put lighting here, and you know the effects of light that get out of it. Anyway, so that's for us for those types of modifier or new modifier, which is twist and taper and also lattice. If I remove it, it's gonna return to its previous condition, which is a box, as you can see. Now I'm gonna make this 20 by 20, and now let's try another modifier, and it's noise. I'm gonna hit N on my keyboard and hitting that. So if you change this, nothing gonna happen actually. So you need to go first and change those strength effects. So I'm gonna push or starting to create a distortion in X, or according to the X. You start up the box, look, it's been really damaging. Look, now it's really. Now let's do that in Y also. And I'm gonna do that in Z. So as you can see, it's actually deformed or distorted or adding strong noise to it. If you remove that, by the way, it's gonna be like really not fractal, it's really big, so it's less deformation. So add this again, and from the scale you can change how much your distortion actually affect this. And again, the bigger you go, the less you can see. So be careful to find a good relationship between the box parameter and what type of scale and strength you're gonna add to the geometry. Here, see, it give you a different possibilities, by the way, for that distortion, and the roughness is actually controlling how tough, how rigid it is, and the iteration is the fineness and how many times it repeat that to create for you a better deformation. It also can consume ground significantly, so be careful with it. Anyway, let's get back to here, 50, 50, and then 50 probably, and you can see that we're gonna have a bigger or a really big distortion for the object. If you get back to box and make the length like 300, and this guy also 300, and get away from the geometry. Now you see it's a little bit ugly and really not accurate. So when you have this really terrain creator or really severe modifiers like noise, for example, here you must go to really maximum of your segment, and you can see the difference immediately. It looks like a terrain and like a hills. If you zoom it correctly, it's like a really angry water. I don't know, whatever you want. So it's again, you need a serious amount of segments here in order to reach and see full effect of your box. Come back here, and don't forget it's animated, so you can just change the phase, you know. Oh, I have to check on the animation. So now you see that it's a little bit like a moving water. It's animated, so you can just move the slider and see the effect of that. It should, you know, give you the indication of a moving water. If you have a still image, it's going to give you a water or a terrain, and it depends on what type of material you are actually giving to the geometry. Anyhow, that's box, and see how the laptop is actually dying, and it's really getting slow by one box. So be careful, it's really serious surface and a serious modifier, and it can add a big load to your machine that really slow it down. So that's noise. Let me select it and delete it. Let's have another modifier. So I'm gonna go and have a wave. So hit W, that's wave, and you can increase those two amplitude here. So that's number one, and see, it's make the wave here. It's really annoying to have those too much segments, so I'm gonna get them back to 100 by 100. Better to understand what's going on. And you can see now again that's the wave. So let's go 30 here, and it's really nice if you add the amount to the next one to get like a full distortion of that. probably need to go back to the box and make one of those guys less. So, you know, by the time you guess what I'm trying to do. And here in the wavelength, you can control how long, this is. And by the decay, you can help to make like a flag shape. So, like as much as you add the distortion, as much as you can feel it's faded when it goes away. And yes, it's animated, so you can make an animation out of that. So if I hit F4, no, it actually didn't store it, but I have to change it here. As you can see, it's moving, probably less segment, less painful to the eye. And remember, less segment means less quality in the model anyway, but it's really can help you to get a nice wave in your geometry. I'm gonna delete that. The last one is ripple. So ripple is very similar to wave, but it's do it more water-like rather than airflow-like. And you can see now what's happening. The higher you go, of course, the more effects for you. Again, the decay make it really realistic, so it looked like really strong in the beginning and then really fade away. Same what happened. And yes, it's you can make animation by changing that value, and it's look like that. So we throw something in a surface and it's actually rippling its upper surface against the change you did. So those are basically the modifiers, and those are how you can deal with each one of them, and you can copy paste them, or start to do any type of effects based on each based on their location or their existence. By changing their location, you can add them, turn them off, delete them, any type actually of change. That's for me, for them as a list of an object. So we know now why and when we need that, and how to add them. We also spoke about that as a topic, and that's a nice way. That's, by the way, it's all taken from 3ds Studio Max 2013 main help. For example, here the effect of bend on this column. It's really nice explanation. You can find that in the help itself. That's bend. We talk about it. Twist. So let's have a look at this. It's a good example of making a twist here, which is the creation of the Infinity Tower or Cayan Tower. It's in Marina, Dubai, UAE, and it's really lovely building, a really nice place. You must see that. And if I want to model, like make a basic modeling of this one, I know if you zoom in and you have lots of close look at the facade, you're going to find it different from the way I'm doing it. I'm just going to do this without the extra things and without the detail for that. So in order to do that basic or general modeling, you need to Google this. If you are not able to go there and take the measurement, you're going to find lots of information. It's telling you that the upper surface has been rotated 90 degrees. For example, it's 73 sorry, and it's, I think, 306 meter. It doesn't give me, for example, this and this, the X and Y for the plan. So you can do lots of tricks. You can put that in AutoCAD as a picture, and like scale that and put this point and this point as a 306 and measure this, scale it, and then measure the X and Y. You can just make it or divide it roughly. So if from this point to this point is a 306, and we have 73 level. So we talk basically about 4.2 meter as a height of each level, which is kind of reasonable and logical number. And we can divide the 306 on 7, because if you take this roughly, if you draw a line and roughly for the width and accumulate this line along the 306, you're gonna have like 7 of them. So 306 on 7, it's roughly 40 meter, this line itself, which is the width, which also makes sense that the building could be, again, it's rough, very rough way of doing it. So it could be 40 40 306, and the level height 4.2, or let's say 4. You can just put that in AutoCAD and just put this point and this point as a 306. I think it's easier than this calculation, and scale that down or up, and then you get this real number. So let's try and model it. So what we need is just to create a plain or simple box with located at the XYZ 0, and the length of 40 and the width of 40, and then the height of the 306. And I'm gonna add 10 10 and then 73 segments, which give us 4 by 4 again, which give us 4 by 4 meter, because 40 divided on 10, so each mullion will be 4 in X and Y. And the same thing, if you divide this on that, it should give you like 4.2, which is, again, it's almost as a rectangular or a square system of mullions. Now let's do that. So let's go to 3D Max. I'm gonna delete, or I don't know, let's delete that guy. So I'm gonna create a box here anywhere, and I'm gonna make it in 0 0 0 as a location, and then in the parameter I'm gonna add 40 40 and then 306, as you can see. And it's too much of the segments, so I'm coming here to the length of the segments. I'm gonna add 10 10 and then 306. So when you zoom in, did I say here 306? 373, sorry, it's the overall height is 306, sorry, my bad. And now you get this, it's almost 4 4 and then 4, and that's what we need, 4 4 and then 4 meter here. All you got to do now is to twist it. Let me go here and add a twist, and it's 90 degree. And then I'm gonna add a duplicate of that, so I'm gonna select this and Control V, copy that in place, and then add a lattice to it as such. Zoom in here, and finally you can make it 0.1 here and another 0.1 here, and you can see now we get the a mullion. Well done. So let's change that to white, and that's what we have here, a nice twist tower, a very basic representation of that nice building. As you can see, again, create it a little bit, getting closer to see this mullions, or you can increase their width actually if you need to see that in more detail. So it's really nice way, and that's the procedure. Again, that's our building, and that's the segments. Twist it 90 degree, and then, you know, Control and V and add the lattice, and that's it technically. Choose the parameter you think suitable here, 0.25, 0.1, depend on how far away your shot will be to see this, and that's the end up result for the tower. Anyway, now we have another part and of the lecture, which is it's the segment effect. And in the segment effect, we talked about that I think previously, and now because we notice how the segment is actually affecting the the amount of the lattice we create. So yes, it's really important to understand now its major effect on the modification. So if we see this this time, not for a modification, it's not, sorry, for a modifier, but it's a modification process. So if you have this sphere and you add a segment of 64, you can see how it's curved and nice, and each time you go less and less and less, you see it even goes far away from the definition of the sphere. So yes, the segment is really important to create any curvature, and the more segment is actually the more curvature, and the heavier the object and slower the max goes. So you have to be careful. If you have a far away shot, maybe this is enough. If you have a very close shot like here only, so you have to make this curved really strong. So in this case, go happy with increasing this as much as you can, but don't go less than 16. Actually, don't go less than 32, because this is not the definition, the good definition or good way to represent a sphere. And again, the more segment you add, the slower your machine will be, and that's really important to be understand. And the slower the time of the rendering will be also, so be careful with this. And also we saw that when we was doing the noise, and we see the less segment, how they can give us less accurate modeling. See, this is really 100 and really nice. It's look like a stone. It's really beautiful, while here it's less reality or less accurate, and that's gone, or that's happened due to the fact of having this object having less segment. Again, the effect of segments on the amount of lattice or mullions here you can see in the building. So if this is a 5 meter and you have 5 segments, now each one of them will be, you know, 1 meter by 1 meter, depend on what you want. So that's really important concept to understand. In order again to create this effect, which is a box and a mullion above, you have a simple box, which is this one, and then the same box with a lattice to create this effect. Anyway, I'll leave that for you to have a quick read about. And that's also the taper effect, and that's all taken, again, all of it taken from the help from the same software. And just to show you how nice the curvature to go up and down for the taper command modifier, actually some explanation for each. And the final part is we need to make is actually the gate tower, and I'm going to explain that in a different video, step by step. Again, that's it's very nice building. It's in Abu Dhabi, UAE. It's in Emirates. It's a really beautiful building, and that's the step by step shape modeling that we're gonna make in the next modifier. And we also again spoke about the ripple, and that's a one amplitude, 2 amplitude, and same thing here. Both are very nice modifiers. So let's do this in our next lecture. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.